Good morning. Welcome to SOGCast number 029. My name is John Stryker Meyer. I'll be your host today. And of course, this production of our interviews with SOG veterans who served in the Secret War during the Vietnam War is brought to you courtesy of Jocko Willink Productions and SOG Chronicles. Now, I have to start out on a personal note today. When I was at CCN in 1969, my mother wrote me a letter. She said, Johnny, remember little Tommy Waskovich? He's in Vietnam, just like you. He's a Green Beret, just like you. But what my mother didn't know, and what the rest of America didn't know, was that Tom and I were at different bases fighting in the Secret War. It's my honor and pleasure today to introduce and bring the SOGCast number 029, Tom R. Waskovich. Tom, welcome to the show, brother.
Well, thank you very much. I'm so glad to be here. And it's amazing that I don't think most people know that we've known each other since we were 9 years old. And the meeting that we finally did get together
As Green Berets
was in House 10, or secret safe house.
On the stairway?
On the stairway. Had a little too much to drink that night. I think you did. I was going up. You were coming down. Tilt! What are you doing here?
Yeah.
Tom, what are you doing here? And on it went. So,
and I forget if I had the letter from my mother. Yeah, I had to get the letter. But anyways, and that was other than the time I met you in your kitchen in Trenton, New Jersey, delivering milk to you.
Yeah, that's when we were little guys back then.
That's right, we were little guys. My dad was a milkman, and Tom's family was one of our biggest customers.
9 years old. Jeez. Amazing. Just amazing. And here we are.
Here we are today.
Go figure.
And so, for background for our purposes here, you entered the Army and wound up at CCC in Khartoum.
That's correct.
And I think because of our stories, we just got to get into your story. And I was fascinated by your very first mission. So you landed in Vietnam. It was at Ben Head around January 1st, 1969.
That's correct.
Take it from there, and because you got into action pretty quick.
I sure did. The whole thing was like watching somebody else's story, I joined the Army. I wanted to be a paratrooper, and went to basic training, and they had this thing. This guy came out in a Green Beret and talked about you should be joining the Special Forces if you can do this and this. So, yeah, sounds good. So I did that. And anyway, after basic and AIT, I went to Infantry Officer Candidate School. I was 18 years old, as a teenager. And then went to jump school, and then went to the Special Forces Officers course when I was 19. Still a teenager.
Whoa, yeah,
Can you believe it?
Yeah.
And then I turned 20, and 2 months later, I'm in Vietnam, Ben Het, for a couple of days, and then CCN, they didn't need anybody, so it sent us down to CCC. And 2.5 weeks, I'm on RT Wyoming. Oh. And as a 1-2, we're training for a few days, and we go out to the field, RJT, no 1-0 school,
no.
OJT,
Yeah, indeed.
And so that was kind of strange. I happened to be very fortunate in that our 1-0 was John Davidson, and the 1-1 was Craig Davis, two outstanding soldiers, outstanding recon guys, especially Davidson. He was just a terrific 1-0. And I was very fortunate to be with that team. But, starting out as the 1-2, I humped the radio, and there's nothing like that prick 25 on your back to bring you down to earth, literally
and your
figuratively.
Extra battery.
Yeah, your extra battery. Oh, jeez. So anyway, we're off and running. We're inserted. We're supposed to try and find an NVA bivouac area.
So you're on RT Wyoming.
Yeah, I'm the 1-2. I'm humping the radio. John's the 1-0. Craig's the 1-1. And we're going towards our target. And we finally get to the road we're supposed to watch. We don't know where the bivouac area is, though. But we're watching, and some of the yards hear them talking about where this bivouac area is miles down the road yet. So anyway, as we're watching, we're pretty close, to 15 feet from the road. And my first thought when we lined up there, I saw a guy going by, and I'm ready to shoot him. And Davis says, no, don't do that. So, okay. What do I know? You see a bad guy, you're going to shoot him. And I'm good, because as he goes by, then another goes by, another goes by, another goes by.
It was a
I lost count of the parade after that.
Oh my God!
But anyway, Davidson was a wise 1-0. And anyway, throughout this morning, one of our yards must have rustled or something because they heard us. And they start looking towards the brush, and we said, okay, we better get out of here. So we start DDing, going back the way we came. And then you hear 3 signal shots, and then the chase is on.
Whoa.
And we start out, and we can hear them behind us. And they're not that close yet. We can just hear the noises. Anyway, we
And you're in double, triple canopy?
no, at this point, it was probably single broken by the road.
Right.
But as we went further in, then it got deeper, And anyway, these guys are in back of us, and they're in back of us all day. And the yards tell us they got dogs. I couldn't hear them, but they could hear them. So anyway, they're chasing us, and chase us throughout the day. And that night, we finally, stop when it gets dark, and they stop. So John Davidson, he breaks out his Green Hornets and passes them out. And we're all beat, by then. But we take the Green Hornets, and boy, just like that, you're wide awake.
And the Green Hornets are?
What do they call them? Amphetamines?
Amphetamines, legal amphetamines.
Dextroamphetamines. But boy, we were awake all night. And with no problem having to, fall asleep. But anyway, next morning, first light, we're out again, and they're after us again. And so John tells me to call in, see if we can get some air support. And in the meantime, they're chasing us, and we're doing everything we can to get rid of them. John decides to wade into a stream, and we stay in the stream up to our waists for I don't know, a quarter mile. And then we get out, and the damn people, they're still behind us. The dogs, I guess, didn't lose the scent. So then we finally put some CS powder down, and that seems to work. We don't hear any dogs anymore, but the bad guys are still coming. And so anyway, it's later in the day, and I finally get air on the radio, and they're ready to do a strike. And so I give my location. I tell them the direction I want them to come in, so when they drop it, it doesn't get hung up and end up on our position.
Right.
So I have a perpendicular, whatever. So anyway, they come in, and they, I think it was a SPAD, and they dropped CBU, and that just took care of any pursuit.
Wow.
At the same time, we had transmitted about the bivouac area, so they had inserted a hatchet force with us. And so we decided to go towards the coordinates where we thought the bivouac area was, and we started heading that direction. And our recon team is the point, and it's our yard point man, and then Davidson, and then me with the radio, and then another yard behind me. And we get to this high-speed trail. We look, 2 bad guys. Bang, 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 bang. We all fire at the same time, and we all shoot the guy on the right. There's 2 of them coming down the road. We all shoot the guy on the right. Nobody shoots the guy on the left. And he's like that comic book character, the Flash. I mean, he's gone. You couldn't even see his elbows. He was so fast. So anyway, we go up and form a perimeter around the poor dead guy.
Yeah.
And John takes his rifle, and he has a sack that he's carrying. He takes that. I'm going through his pockets, and I find this like plastic sheet and all these tiles. And the tiles all have Chinese markings on them. So I said, what the hell is this? Maybe these are the units that are all in this area, this bivouac area. So this is good stuff. So we transmit what we got, and they decided to yank us. And so anyway, we come out and get back to camp. They sent all the stuff to Saigon. And a couple days later, I grabbed the S2 and said, well, what's going on? We haven't heard anything back about this guy we whacked and what he was carrying and stuff. He said, well, Tom, I got some good news and bad news. He said, well, all right, what's the bad news? He said, well, the tiles you had with all the Chinese markings you thought were units? I said, yeah. He said, what was a mahjong set? So what? What's a mahjong set? I don't know what a mahjong set. So anyway, that was a little disappointing to say the least.
Oh my God!
But the good news was the sack was a mail sack and was full of mail and intelligence.
Good intel.
Good intel. So it was, a worthwhile first mission.
Let me take you back to your first airstrike then, because you weren't in contact yet. You knew they were on you.
Yeah.
So did you direct your TAC air after a shiny? Because you couldn't pop a smoke.
No, yeah, exactly.
Well, that's part of your clandestine modality.
Absolutely. Popping a shiny, that's how we, I never knew where the hell I was at. That's why the bad guys couldn't find me, because if I didn't know where I was at, how were they going to know where I was at? Anyway, that's what as you know, most recon teams, they popped a shiny little hole in the center of the mirror. And
but for our listeners, that's a key part of that, because
absolutely.
You're there and your shiny contacts you with a covey or forward air controller.
Yeah, SPAF.
And then they connect you with the air asset.
Yeah, and the SPAF or the covey or whatever happens, but knows your location then.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just a case of putting them on target and telling them what the direction of approach is. So that was basically it. And
very modest, but that's a key part of the game, sir.
Oh, absolutely.
Indeed.
I can't tell you how powerful you feel when you're calling in those SPADs, or you're calling it F4s, or you're calling it helicopter gunships.
Oh, yeah.
There's a little bit of euphoria involved with that, And
yes.
My God, what can I do with these guys?
Particularly when they're trying to kill you.
Yeah, and you end up killing them? First. How good is that?
Yeah.
So, anyway, we get back, and they send me out for another mission to try and find a truck park at a target called Juliet 9.
Oh, it's one of the worst targets for pontoon.
Absolutely. And they had made
So are you strap hanging now?
No, they made me a 1-0. Now I'm 1-0.
After one mission, you're a 1-0.
RTC. Yeah, John thought I did a good job, so he pushed me up. And I learned fast. I learned well.
You are a fast learner.
Absolutely.
Indeed.
So anyway, we go out, Juliet 9.
So you're on RT
South Carolina. I'm the 1-0.
I just want to keep it all.
Right. My 1-1 is Carlos Parker.
Oh, wow.
And,
okay. I know his name.
Yeah.
I never met him.
I just talked to him 2 days ago. His 87th birthday.
No.
Yeah, he just to diverse.
Sure, of course.
A little bit. After I left South Carolina, Carlos took over as the 1-0, and he was out on a Hatchet Force mission, and must have stepped on a toe popper and blew his leg off.
Ooh.
And he was one of the very first SF guys to stay in the service with a prosthetic. And he made parachute jumps with his prosthetic. And
really?
Yeah, he ended up retiring as a sergeant major, and then worked as a civilian for SOCOM after that. So he's a real hardcore tough guy, and
what a character.
Just enjoyed talking to him. But anyway, getting back, Carlos is my 1-1, and a guy by the name of John St. Martin is my
oh, really?
1-2. You know John?
Oh, of course.
Okay, so anyway, I also heard from many of our 1-0s that when you give your briefing on what you're going to do, don't give them the real LZ that you're going to be inserted on.
You're dealing with that too.
Right. You do your VR, your visual recon. You pick out the real LZ you want, and then you pick out one that looks good but you're not going to use, and that's when you report that you're going to use.
Right.
And then you pick an alternate.
And the reason why we're doing that is for security for the team. We had security problems, major security problems, that we assumed came from headquarters once they got the accurate.
Exactly. We found out years later that we had a mole in SOG headquarters, a guy by the name of Francois, who was discovered by Speedy Gaspard,
Indeed.
Our mutual friend, but that's another story. But anyway, I picked out a really tight LZ way in the back of Juliet 9, and then gave another LZ as when I was being inserted in. Anyway, we were inserted without a problem, and my mission was to find a truck park. And anyway, snooped and pooped and did what we were supposed to, like 3 days and 4 days, and no problems. And then we think we heard people in back of us, so it's starting to get a little bit hairy. And anyway, we get to this area where this truck park's supposed to be. Pull the bushes aside, I see this bunker with an aperture. So,
An aperture?
Yeah, in the belt.
Oh, yeah.
Budget. So, oh shit, what do I do now? We think we got people in back of us. There's the truck part. I don't see any activity though, so, well, let's go. So I send a yard on each side, and Carlos covers the aperture, and I go down the middle. Got my car 15. Like, if anybody opens up, I'm a dead man. And
Yeah.
we probably all are, so it didn't make any difference at that point. Anyway, long story short, that bunker was empty, and it turned out to be this truck part. And I don't think a lot of people realized back then the methodology that the NVA used. And they had these truck parks set up like every 20 kilometers.
Right.
And
Along the Ho Chi Minh Trail.
All along the Ho Chi Minh Trail. And it wasn't a case where 90 trucks went all the way down the Ho Chi Minh Trail. They went 6 trucks at a time from depot to depot. And this was one of the first ones that I think was actually reported on because it was empty. We went through there, and there's these 6 large holes that were excavated by machinery that a truck could drive into. So when it was at the bottom, it was flush with the top.
Wow.
So if there were any airstrikes
Yeah.
involved, it wouldn't damage the trucks. And they had all these, I don't even know how to describe them, like little bamboo huts with little hammocks and stuff in them for the
Sure.
where the troops were.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's leftover toothpaste tubes and rice bags and stuff
No
all
kidding.
over. Yeah. So anyway, we were probably one of the first to photograph and be in one of these truck parks
Yeah.
that were all along the trail. And it was probably maybe 100, 150 people that manned these things, as best we could tell. But anyway, we were extracted after that, and it was uneventful. Other than that, we did discover this setup that I don't think not too many people
No, I never heard that one
had
before.
seen by then.
Particularly them going down to
Drive right in,
Wow.
and half a dozen of them, and
like the bin trams.
yeah,
right?
yeah, and then exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what how they protected their trucks and moved from station to station.
Because by that time, the NVA moving their supplies and troops south, they had their methodology, and that confirms it.
Absolutely.
Because before that, like you said, we thought there'd be longer convoys,
Absolutely.
and they weren't by 69. And there's your answer to the question.
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the reasons we had
Wow.
that mission was to try
Sure.
and locate that and discover what it was. But
So
anyway,
your first mission as a 1-0 is a complete success.
yeah, and then I went to the next one, and I had a mission to again, I think it was Juliet 9, plant a mine in the Ho Chi Minh Trail there. Yeah, thanks for that one, guys.
Oh my God! So Juliet 9, just for our listeners, that it was the hottest target
Absolutely.
in the Khartoum AO
Absolutely.
for CCC
No doubt
at that
about
time, and
And the first one was a dry hole. We got in, found
that's
out we were
just
supposed to.
amazing.
Second one was not so fortunate. Anyway, had a vehicular mine. It had a plant in
The big ones, like-
trail. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
So who carried your vehicular mine?
I think I carried it at that point. But I'm not going to give it to one of my little guys to carry
No.
it. And the other one guy, Martin's got the radio, and Carlos
Sure.
is a little guy. So who's that leave? So anyway, long story short, we get there. We get on the trail, looking out, go out there, dig a hole, plant the mine, cover it all up.
Yeah.
And then I pull my guys back, and we set up an ambush a little ways away. So if somebody comes and drives over the mine, boom, we can maybe
Get a POW.
get a POW. So we lay up, on the side of the road there, and we clear out a little spot so the twigs won't break if we're laying there, it won't rustle around. So anyway, we're all there a couple hours, nothing happens. So pull guys back to eat lunch, and next time I think, well, I'll let St. Martin here. He's a new guy with the yards, and I'll just take my interpreter and team leader and Carlos, and we'll go up and we'll set up a little thing. So we're going back up to the where we planted the mine, and there's a little bit of brush there, and move the brush away, and as we're looking through the brush, there's 4 NVA security team that came along, saw the 8 cleared spaces.
No.
I said, oh, something wrong here. So
no.
they look at us, we look at them, we take a step back, they take a step back, step back.
No.
We boogie, 3 signal shots, and then the race is on again. Anyway, we had been in that Target for like 3 days and had drank most of our water and most of our
Sure.
canned food. So anyway, we got chased for 3 days and without food and water for 3 days and 90 plus humid. By the third, I declared tactical emergency and got break contact, continue mission, as you've heard from several CCC guys. Anyway, after 3 days, we were done. My yards couldn't move anymore. St. Martin was out of it. Carlos and I were still functional. They had declared a prairie fire and just couldn't move anymore. And now we're surrounded. They're going around, which is what they normally do when they're chasing you. As soon as you turn, you're going to get flanked eventually.
Or they try to lead you into an ambush.
Or, either way. So anyway, they're going around the side of us. And I'm listening on the radio, and we're in contact. They know it's a prairie fire. And I'm monitoring another team that is in the next target area, Hotel 9. I don't know if it was we were in Hotel 9, they were Juliet 9, or vice versa. I think it was Hotel 9. Anyway, I hear on the radio, in contact, casualties, 2 straw hats, 1 KIA, 1 WIA, and 2 other WIA.
Whoa.
I said, holy shit.
And a straw hat is
Americans,
right.
2 Americans.
That's a code for the radio.
Right. So anyway, after they withdraw that team, they come to get us, and there's bad guys all around.
And you're in contact all along.
Yeah, and so we start, I called in F4s, and they were so close that they didn't really want to drop shit. So the F4s would just fly treetop level and draw fire. And then we had gunships that would come in after the F4s went by and then hit those targets. Anyway, choppers came in, and we loaded them up, and Carlos and I were the last ones, and I'm sitting in the door, and we're heading out, and the M60 gunner's cranking away. We see fire coming from the tree line, and I'm firing my car. And anyway, we get out of there, and they drop us at Leghorn, and I hear that...
and Leghorn, just for our audience, is a radio relay site for Khartoum on top of a little mountaintop that a helicopter can't even land on. They're going to put one of the struts down.
Exactly.
Everybody's got to get out, but be advised because it's steep.
Exactly. So anyway, we get there, and I find out that RT New York, after were put in and run into so many people, they decided to put them into the next target and find out what was going on. So my real good buddy, Jim Raponte, breaks into my room.
Yeah.
And he just got this on a moment's notice.
Lieutenant.
Yeah. So
fellow lieutenant.
Yeah. So he steals 3 packs of Marlboros out of my locker and leaves me 2 cans of sardines. So anyway, I get to Leghorn, and I find out that he was the one who was killed.
Oh.
And anyway, we get back to Khartoum and open his body bag and meet another guy who's a friend of his, Tim. I take the St. Christopher medal off his neck to send back to his parents, and I drew his rifle from S4. Figured I'd get some revenge with it.
Yeah.
But anyway, after that, didn't know what to do with those sardines. Couldn't throw them away. Couldn't eat them.
No.
I kept them the whole time. He came back, became a civilian, still had the damn sardines. And yeah, for years. And then 1983, when they dedicated, or whatever year it was, they dedicated the Vietnam Veterans Memorial.
Oh, yeah, right, at Washington, D.C.
Yeah, I went and I left the sardines under
Jim's name.
Yeah, under his panel.
Wow.
And the very first set of stuff, the Smithsonian came and picked up like 10 different items. Sardines were one of them, and they had it in the Smithsonian. And there was a book about some things they left behind or something like that, where the sardines were mentioned in that too.
No kidding.
Anyway, that was the culmination of that mission.
That was a hell of a mission he was in.
Yeah, he was. They got hit unexpectedly, and Jim was shot in the chest, and his one was shot in the leg, I believe. 2 yards were dead. And their 1-2 was a brand new guy who obviously had his hands full. But when he treated Raponte, he had a hit in the chest. Treated him for a sucking chest wound, took the bandage out of the wrapper,
Right.
put the wrapper over the hole, and then the bandage. But he didn't bandage the exit wound.
Oh.
And Raponte ended up bleeding to death. But Sergeant Montgomery, his team was on Bright Light, and they rappelled in on top of them.
Really?
Yeah, and got him out and got Raponte out. And Raponte's last words were, "Don't leave me here." And said, "You're not. We're coming." And then he died on the way out.
No kidding.
So anyway, that was that, and not a good mission for my first 1-0.
No.
But anyway, shortly after that, my team got put on Bright Light, give us a break, so to speak.
Yeah, so explain again from Pontoon's perspective. The Bright Lights, they had a rotation at the launch site, but give us the launch site and a little bit more of that background.
Yeah, the launch site was at Jocko, and the Bright Light team was on call 24/7. In the event a team got in trouble, like Raponte's did with New York, the Bright Light team would immediately get on a chopper, fly out there, and rappel in on top of them. If a chopper went down or a helicopter went down, the Bright Light team would go out and rappel in on top of them. Not a fun job. You had to hope.
That Bright Light was the worst of all missions.
It was without a doubt. And anyway, my team was pulling Bright Light. And while we were on Bright Light, there were a couple of recon teams in the field, but there was a SLAM operation going on called Operation Nightcap. It was the very first covert mission to block the Ho Chi Minh Trail.
This is 69.
March of 69. They put a Hatchet Force company on a hilltop overlooking the trail. They were supposed to actually go down and interdict it, but for some reason, they thought there were too many bad guys around and it would be best to stay in a defensive position since they could cover the roadway with a 90 recoilless rifle. And unfortunately, their recoilless rifle gunner got hit second day, something like that. And Colonel Lapp was in the tower at Jocko and heard about that. They were exfiltrating the wounded guy who was hit. And anyway, it was uneventful sitting there until that time, except the night before they had brought in a KIA, and there's like a ready shack underneath the tower, and they brought this KIA, and I don't know whether he was an American or whether he was Vietnamese or what, but he was wrapped in a poncho with just his boots sticking out, and it was a small room half the size of this. There were two bunks, one for the dead guy and one for me as the 1-0, waiting for any news from the tower. So the night before, I'm laying there trying to sleep, and I hear this noise coming from the poncho. I said, what's going on? I said, I wait, and did I really hear that? And I hear like noise again. And I'm about ready to freak out. And I said, no, it's got to be some
rigor mortis setting in?
Yeah, that's what it was. The body was decomposing and making noises and stuff. Anyway, long story short, the next day...
Dead body noises.
Yeah, when Colonel Mapp said, hey, you want to volunteer to take this guy? Sure, sign me up.
Right away.
Get me the hell out of here. So anyway, next chopper comes in. They send me out, and I thought it was strange that nobody else out there knew how to fire a 90 recoilless, but it was too late.
Did.
Huh?
So you volunteered, you go out,
Yeah.
and by that time the Hatchet Force had been on the ground several days.
Yeah, exactly.
And it had taken a lot of fire.
Yeah, and they dropped me off there. And unfortunately, 2 days before, one of the officers there, I don't know which one it was, called in an airstrike. They thought they had MVA outside the wire. And obviously they knew where our position was.
Yeah.
But he didn't give them direction of approach.
Oh, no.
And F4 came in, there's our perimeter. Came in, canister hung up, and a napalm canister hit our perimeter, killed a half a dozen yards, fried them in their bunkers. So anyway, it was not a good start on that mission. Anyway, got in there, and
So you got in. You're on the ground.
yeah,
but
I got my 90 recoilless rifle.
John Plaster's book. Because you're just too modest. You won't tell us a really good part of the story. But John Plaster wrote in his book about the 1-0 you who got on the ground, and so the lead truck was coming down, and so he is quoting the 1-0 who said, "In order to get the right trajectory, I had to stand on one of these bunkers." These are bunkers that were pre-built after the team had landed on the ground to combat the NVA coming at him. And I took aim and blasted that sucker. I mean, that was your first successful kill with a 90 millimeter recoilless on an NVA truck on the Ho Chi Minh Trail.
Absolutely. You know, I'm there. What was going on was every night you'd have this massive mortar barrage, and these guys were good. The mortars were right on the bunkers.
Wow.
And then they had a 12.7 grazing fire right over the top of the perimeter. And then these bad guys would sneak up and throw grenades, and some of them would use small arms fire. And most guys were in their bunker. But App told me, watch for trucks, and if you see a truck, shoot it. So I stood up on top of the bunker, and I'd seen blackout lights before on previous missions on trucks.
Right.
You know, where they got a flange over the headlight,
Yeah.
and the light just shines down on the road.
Sure.
So I'm standing there, and I think, holy shit, that's a blackout light. It's moving. So I have my yard come up, and he loads me up, and get all placed, and I fix it in the reticle. You know, there's a reticle sight, and if you can fit it right in the reticle, you can't miss. So I did, and I didn't miss, and boom. It went up in a big flash and rolled down the road, and then set up for the next one. And this is like 300 meters away. It's dark, so it's really hard to tell.
That's a long shot.
Yeah, but with a 90, you can't miss if it's in that reticle because it gives you the exact range.
Yeah.
So anyway, the next truck, I fire at that, and I'm a little forward on it. I don't see the flash, but I think I hit right in front of it. And next thing I know, the platoon leader is yelling at me, "Cease fire, cease fire. You're in danger in the position." So, okay. So he said, "I'm going to get some M60s and we'll put them on the bunker." So what happened was the platoon leader had his bunker right in back of mine. And the back blast from a 90 recoilless rifle is pretty awesome. So I just about fried him in his bunker. I think that was the problem.
So instead of him moving, so you could continue to knock out trucks.
Well, he was in a bunker, you know. Anyway, so he brings up 3 M60 machine guns, and he and myself and a Lieutenant Bramlett, who ended up being a brigadier general in Alaska someplace. Anyway, we're firing these M60 machine guns at these remaining trucks. Yeah. And there looks like there's guys running around too, so we're just smoking them up. I think I fired 1,000.
This is night.
Yeah, I think I fired 1,000 rounds through the M60 before the barrel turned red and jammed, as did the other guys. So we just smoked them tremendous. Anyway.
So in the morning, were they able to come back with the Air Force to knock out some more?
Yeah,
I think backed up on the trail?
Yeah, there were 6 trucks altogether.
The usual 6.
Yeah, that's right. There was the full 6 trucks from that particular
the way they came down
park.
At that point.
Yeah, exactly. And smoked all 6 of them. And anyway, during the course of the night, we had, bad guys throwing grenades. Myself and a Sergeant Simpson, we were throwing grenades back at them.
In the middle of the night?
Yeah. And we had one that, I guess from here to there, one landed in between us. And big bang, but no shrapnel.
Chinese.
So, yeah. And we were a little more accurate than they were, so that ceased. Then the next night...
You mean more accurate with your the American frag grenades going back at the guys, and throwing their Chinese grenades at you.
Yeah. And I think like 1 out of every 5 grenades we threw didn't go off.
Really?
Yeah, so that's something that we thought was very, very strange. Taking them right out of the case, So
yeah.
I don't know what the explanation was that. for that was. But anyway, later on, I got put on LP duty. So I don't know why they need LPs when they know there were bad guys all around.
And
So,
LP is a listening post.
yeah, listening post. So I'm out there with my yard, and I got a Claymore mine out there.
So
with
this is still on
Yes,
same operation.
Yeah.
So we're going to put an LP out here. There's all kind of enemies surrounding us, attacking us at night.
Yeah.
Tom, go do an LP.
Yes, exactly. So,
Oh, okay. Just want to get the stage set out here.
So we go out. I got the Willie Peter grenade taped to the front of the Claymore, and me and my yard are sitting there for an hour or so. And did I hear something? Yuck, you hear something? Yeah. Okay, crank it. Boom. Those lights everywhere. I swore I thought I saw like a human figure in there, but you couldn't tell. Anyway, we just popped it and then DD'd back to the perimeter. And later on,
ruined your night vision.
Yeah, surely did. Anyway, the following night, the captain comes to see me, and we're not getting mortared as much, still intermittent, but we're getting grazing fire from the 12.7, and I think they're trying to fix the road during this time. Anyway, captain comes to me and says, "We got to get rid of that 12.7. We won't be able to get out of here. Shoot down any helicopter that comes in." So he said, "I'm going to go down the other end of the perimeter, and I'm going to fire a full magazine, and I'm going to draw his fire. When he shoots at me, you fire your M90 on his muzzle flash." Okay, it sounds like a good plan. So that's what he does. He goes down, fires a whole magazine, and sure enough, the 12.7 returns his fire. I see it, put the 90 on it, and popped them, and even got secondary explosions.
Get out.
No, I think
How far away was that shot?
300 meters, same as the trucks, But I think they might have had mortar rounds stored there too, because there were
to get secondaries.
Yeah.
That's a bonus.
Oh, absolutely. So anyway, all this is going on, and the common theme as far as the hatchet force was there's too many bad guys out there to go down and interdict the road. And the recon guys who were there were saying, "No, that's not the case, we don't think. There are bad guys wandering around.
Right.
Might be a half a dozen or a dozen of them, but we don't think it's any NVA battalion or anything." And so anyway, we're out of water at this point. So they tell Lieutenant Redmond, whose recon team was attached to them, I think it was RT Arizona, to go down to the river below and fill water bladders.
What?
Yeah. So Redmond comes to me and says, "Hey, Tom, we have to go do this. You want to come with me and be the tail gunner for me?" I said, "Sure." So we get the yards, get all the water bladders, and we start going down to the river, which is 150 meters down the hill. And we go there unopposed, fill the water bladders up, come all the way back unopposed, and we had water. But anyway, in Operation Nightcap, I'm probably one of the very few people who got to fire 5 infantry weapons in one night. My own rifle, Claymore mine, hand grenades.
Claymore mine with a Willie Peter.
Yeah, Claymore, hand grenades, M60 machine gun, and a 90 recoilless rifle. How many people could say they did that? Huh? Tell me. So anyway, that's Operation Nightcap.
Oh my God.
And anyway, I get back and not back long, and they tell me I got another mission. They have to go see if we can find another bivouac area. And in the interim, since I got back, I'm getting these tremendous headaches, just horrible, horrible headaches. And I'm getting ready to go out. And I said, "What am I going to do? Jeez, I get some aspirins or something. They don't really work.
Right.
I'm not going to go to Colonel Apt and say, 'Colonel, I have a headache. I can't go.'" So anyway, we mount up, we head out, and we're heading towards the target area. And my head is killing me. It's like somebody hit me with an axe. So
really?
Yeah, horrible, horrible headache. And going towards the target area, and I'm lost. Lieutenants get lost, So I call for a fix from a SPAF 4, Pete Johnson. So he's flying by doing the bingo thing. And as he flies over at 12.7, opens up on him, just on the nearest hilltop, just about shoots him out of the sky. He calls me a dirty motherfucker. I'm not coming back. And it beats feet. And oh, shit. So anyway, this is a great target. They don't know I'm here. I put my guys online. We'll go up the hill and we'll knock that thing out and see if we can capture it. So I put my guys online, and I'm starting to sneak and peek, snoop and poop up the hill.
Yeah.
And my head is just splitting. All of a sudden, I start getting dizzy, fall flat on my face, go delirious. I have malaria, and didn't realize it. So Carlos Parker drags me out of there, and I don't know whether we made some sound or what, but they knew we were there, and it was a question of getting the hell out of there at that point, and I was so bad. I couldn't hardly walk, couldn't carry my rucksack, and I told Carlos, hey, you go up there and let me check something out, and I was going to take a position behind a log and figure out, hold them off as long as I could. And Carlos comes back, what the fuck are you doing? I was trying to give you guys some time. Hey, get the fuck out. What's the matter with you? He said, well, I'm sorry, Sarge. I can't hardly walk. I can't stand. I can't pull my rug. They get my shit and they carry it for me and pull me out of there. And they finally find, not an LZ, but a place where they can have a string extraction. So they drop the strings. And Carlos puts me in a harness and stuff. And they finally yank us out of there, and I'm in really bad shape. But there's weather moving in, and dangling underneath the chopper, 100 feet or whatever the hell it was, and it starts raining and wind, and it's just terrible, flying back and forth. Anyway, 45 minutes later, we landed Ben Het, and from the harnesses underneath your legs, in strings, nobody can move.
No, you can't walk. The blood's cut off.
So we're laying there on the airstrip, and here's these pilots with their 38s guarding us. And this is while Ben Het's under siege in March of March of '69. So anyway, guys come down from the camp in jeeps, and they
just so our audience here's, in the middle of the jungle, they couldn't land. They drop 150-foot ropes down. Yeah. Carlos hooks you in to save your life.
Yeah.
And while under enemy fire, lifts you out. Right. And then you fly in the rain with wind beating upon your body. But you're like, it's painful, but it's happy pain.
Yeah.
You're glad to be alive. And then you land at Ben Het, where the A camp is under a historic siege.
Yeah. So they come down and get us. But miraculously, all that rain and wind broke my fever. And I was just about semi-normal by then. So we're there for the night. It's semi-normal when I started.
Yeah, what's Waskovich normal?
the same as Meyer normal, as we know from that Trenton-esque background we came from.
Yeah.
Not to digress, but Hal Krosky, Fred Zabatowski, you and me,
right? Mike Bayard,
and I think a guy by the name of Gordon. We're all from Trenton.
Gordon, that's right. 6 men from. Trenton, New Jersey, that all served in SOG. Of course, Fred Zabatowski was with you at CCC, earned the Medal of Honor.
How bizarre. Anyway, we leave Ben Het the next day, go back to Pontoon. I said, I'm great. Go to the mess hall. Bam, just fall, pass out. Anyway, I'm in a dispensary for 2 weeks with falciparum malaria. And almost died. I had near-death experience and all that stuff. They packed me in ice like a fish. Anyway, 2 weeks later, finally came out of it. And by that time, they had given Carlos the team, made him the 1-0.
Yeah.
And when I came out of it, then they made me a platoon leader, Hatchet Force. And how different that was,
I can't imagine.
Oh, geez, you're snooping and pooping, running for your life at a recon with 7-8 guys, Now all of a sudden you got 55 guys with tons of machine guns, and it's a whole different world. But
extractions and infiltrations were a little bit more different.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh,
but one mission in particular, Hatchet Force mission, they put us on a target on the Cambodia-Laotian border, inserted in Cambodia, and then along that area. And again, looking for a base camp in that area. So we're moving along. It's raining like crazy. And we hear bad guys. And we hear them all around us. So I said, oh, shit. And it's raining, so we're not going to get any air support.
Right.
So we're going to be in shit city here real quick. Anyway, climb the nearest hill. We all dig in. And we're sure we're going to get overrun that night. So it's not looking good. And I'm checking with all my American squad leaders, making sure fields of fire are laid in and bunkers are all dug. And
you had time to dig bunkers?
Yeah, well, we had to. We thought we were going to get hit.
Yeah.
Not bunkers, really, reinforced foxholes. So anyway, I call my squad leaders to my location. I just want to break the tension a little bit and say, hey, guys, it's 4th of July. And too bad we can't celebrate, but this time next year, 4th of July, let's all get together in Seaside Heights, New Jersey. And maybe we'll get there. Maybe we'll work there for the summer, work on garbage trucks or something, just, bullshitting around. One of the guys, Tony DeQuino, was from Paramus. Another one, John Grant, was from New York. So we're talking, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, finally sent it back to the location. We're expecting to get hit any minute. And all of a sudden, down in the valley, all these lights come on, like spotlights. And then we hear helicopters coming in. And so what in the fuck is going on? And
they weren't American helicopters.
I don't know who they were. We called them in later on, but they couldn't confirm any American assets being out there. And anyway, shortly after that, everything's lit up for about an hour. The lights go off, and the enemy leaves.
What?
Yeah, they just withdrew, and that was it. It was one of the most bizarre things that I'd ever seen. And I reported that, and nobody ever got back to me as to who they thought it was or what it was.
Whoa.
But definitely
this
not.
This is all 69.
Yeah, this was maybe April 69. No, July 4th of 69. July 4th.
Okay. Yeah.
And no reasonable explanation. Although I had read afterwards, and I don't know if you're aware of it, but the CIA were running similar missions as we were from the west.
Further west.
Yeah, from the west towards the trail, as we were running from the east towards the trail.
Yeah, because if that's July, then it'd be 10 months later you had Operation Tailwind.
Yeah, that's right.
Or 14 months.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know what that was all about. And
another mystery.
Yeah, another mystery.
Did it sound like American helicopters?
No.
Because we had a case. No. We had a case up at in the DMZ where a recon team was in, scheduled for exfil, calling in. They were on the ground for 5 days, and the radio operator goes, "We'll have a helicopter pick you up in 45 minutes. King Bees will be heading north." And so the team got through the vegetation quicker than they thought, and as they're approaching the LZ, they can hear a helicopter. And they get closer, and the helicopter's just sitting there revving. And the radio operator calls back and says, "How far out are the King Bees?" "Oh, they're still 25 minutes out." It was a Russian helicopter.
Oh, get out.
And they tried to pick up the team.
Oh, gee.
So at some
Bizarre.
point, yeah. So and of course we had that time, we heard the Russians, the whole side of the mountain lit up, and the Russians did an aerial resupply. And that happened. We couldn't get any attack air or anything in the middle of the night.
Maybe that's what we saw that night. I don't know.
Maybe.
Could have been a resupply.
The NVA were hunting. You were hungry. They went back and got the food.
Yeah, they didn't want us anymore. Yeah. But anyway, it was very, very strange. They were definitely not our choppers. And so I have no explanation. Anyway, after 8 months in the field, 4 months in a recon, and 4 months in a hatchet force.
And how many Purple Hearts?
None? Hey, let me tell you, I ran 10 missions altogether.
Yeah.
And accomplished all my missions, and I brought all my men back.
Indeed.
So I'm very proud that was the case, And I was very lucky, obviously.
But again, even your last 4 months, you have some unique scenarios there that kind of gives you a little bit of the flavor of SOG and working with our indigenous troops. So one of your duties was to go to Saigon.
Yeah, my last.
Well, what was your assignment? Take it from here, I'm sorry.
I went on R&R in September.
Yeah.
A couple of times, Bangkok, and then October, November, December, they rewarded me by making me the civilian personnel officer.
Ooh.
Which is the guy who pays all the
Indigenous
mercenaries.
troops, yeah,
all the mercenaries. So, and they also made me the escort officer for any bands that came in.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Did Maggie come by?
Yeah, she did, but that's another story. I wasn't there at that time. But anyway, it's a reward if you're a good officer, did a good job. They made a CPO. So anyway, I go to Saigon regularly, and I'd pick up a duffel bag full of piasters and MPC.
And a duffel bag is like 2 feet long.
Yeah, and greenbacks.
And greenbacks.
They say, here you go. I throw it on my shoulder.
And go back to Khartoum.
Don't sign for no accounting whatsoever. And
oh my God.
And it was usually right, the money for the
they
knew how many troops were there, and the greenbacks went to S2, and the MPC was for S4 for any logistical stuff they had to buy. Anyway, the point is that, it was not too much accounting for CIA type money.
And also at that time, to your credit, you had Colonel Fred, or Lieutenant Colonel at the time, Fred App.
Oh, yeah. Who
was probably one of the premier camp commanders during the 8-year Secret War and during that time with SOG. And he would never, ever put up with anything like that.
No, he was a great guy.
Great commander.
Absolutely. Anyway, an interesting mission when I was CPO there. I had some wounded Montagnards in Pleiku, and the road from Khartoum to Pleiku was kind of contested, but I got to pay these guys. It's my job, So
yeah, sure.
I take the 2 Vietnamese in my office, Hai and Ted, and get a Jeep.
And you just thought they were ordinary Vietnamese, right?
They're my accountants in the civilian personnel. So I thought, holy shit, I'm going to want them driving. I'm going to have to protect these 2 guys if we run into shit. And they got the rifles and everything, but what are they going to do? So anyway, we're riding along. As it turns out, Hai was on Fred Zabatowski's team, and Ted was on Dick Meadows' team.
Really?
So I'm here a combat virgin compared to these 2 guys, and I'm thinking about protecting them, right?
Right. And so just for our record here, Fred Zabatowski earned the Medal of Honor in '68 with his recon team at the heroic rescue effort, pulling men from burning helicopters. Dick Meadows still had the all-time record out of Khartoum running recon for 13 POWs he captured with his recon team, which is nobody came close to that record, I don't think. At least in my limited knowledge.
Yeah. So anyway, that's why these guys were working in the finance office. There was a reward for them, for doing a good job.
Wounded.
Yeah, but nobody told me this stuff, So anyway, that's my military history.
But you're able to get through without getting ambushed?
Oh yeah. No, we got through and everything. Paid the troops, came back. But hey, I'm worried. I'm worried like crazy. How I'm going to defend these 2 little guys.
Oh my God. Yeah, you were in good hands. You just didn't realize it.
Oh, absolutely.
So how did all of this start? First of all, we got to talk about some of your heritage here. Your dad was a paratrooper at 82nd Airborne that jumped into Normandy. That's a little bit of an influence? Or?
He's with the 517th Regimental Parachute Combat Team.
Oh, sorry.
It was its own separate unit.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. And they were...
I remember just that he jumped. It's like,
my
God.
He jumped into France.
He's a saint.
Didn't need a visa or anything. But anyway, it's funny. When I went to infantry OCS, the interview, where they decide whether you're going to be able to go to OCS or not.
Yeah.
You're supposed to have 2 years of college back then, and I didn't
at
have
least 2.
Yeah, I didn't have any college, and like I said, I was only 18.
Yeah.
So that they have a board that reviews all your paperwork and makes the final decision. It's like 5 officers, a major, and 3 captains, and lieutenant maybe. So anyway, chairman looks at me and says, "What the hell are you doing here?" I said, "I think I can be a good officer. I think I could lead men." And he said, "Well, you don't have a degree and you're 18, and what makes you think that you can do that?" I said, "Well, my dad parachuted into France in World War II. Nobody asked him how old he was. His brother, Steve, was on D-Day with the 4th Infantry Division, and nobody asked him, what his education was. My other uncle, my dad's third brother, was a sergeant in the Pacific, and nobody cared, what his credentials were. And my other uncle, Hugh, was an Army Air Corps, and nobody cared how old he was or if he went to college. And I come from a patriotic family. I think I could serve. I think I can lead. I know I can lead. They all kind of looked at each other. Okay, I went to OCS at 18. Is that a pisser?
That's a good way to go.
Seriously.
It was a convincing argument.
Yeah, I just told him the truth. And anyway, I was 18 years old. And
but so before us, you grew up in Trenton, New Jersey,
yeah.
St. Anthony's High School, but just a little bit about your history from your family there. And then when you said, someday I'm going to be like my dad, or I'm going to go in the Army and jump out of planes like Dad. And
that's exactly right.
Okay.
I joined to be a paratrooper.
Sure.
And just got a little distracted along the way. Ended up going to
this OCS
infantry OCS thing, and then I did get to parachute school, and
did,
and then Special Forces officer course when I was 19.
Wow.
And I think I had to be the youngest officer to run recon in SOG. Without a doubt.
Absolutely.
I just turned 20 by like 2 months when I was on RT Wyoming.
Yeah.
So I don't think anybody was younger than that, but.
If they were, they can speak up and give us a call.
Yeah, exactly.
There we
go. Exactly.
So, so when you're done in Vietnam, your special assignment, then you come back to the States, and then what happens there? How much more time in the military did you get out, or what was the story?
No, I stayed in the reserves. Not for career purposes or retirement, just for a part-time job. Jobs weren't easy to come by back then. And, so whenever I needed money, I'd go active reserves for a 4th Civil Affairs Company in a 78th Division in Trenton.
Up at Lawrence Township?
No, in you right in Route 33.
Oh,
in Trenton.
Okay, yes, sir.
So anyway, if I didn't need the money, then I'd go inactive. So back and forth and back and forth.
So you come back, and when did you get out of the Army officially and then go into the reserves? What, 70?
Yeah, 70s, early 70s.
And then you went to school.
Well, yeah, I got out in January of 70.
Okay.
And then went to Mercer County College 2 months later, February of 70. But then got into the reserves a couple of years later.
Sure.
And stayed for 25 years in the reserves
on
and off. Didn't get any benefits,
but
I retired from the reserves and a major.
Indeed.
But I couldn't go for the advanced course or any of that stuff, so I stuck at a major. But anyway, it was strange, as coming back from Vietnam, going to college at that time.
And then we finally connected in 70 at some point.
That's right.
Because it's like, well, hey, we're both in Vietnam. So we contacted each other. And then we go, where'd you go? And then we found out where we were both assigned. You were at CCC and I'm up north. We laughed, and then that was it, man. We hit a couple pubs.
Oh, yeah. And it was great because every few weeks we would be able to get together for lunch at, what's that place?
Pete Lorenzo's
Cafe.
Pete
Lorenzo's, yeah.
In Trenton, New Jersey.
Trenton. And Tilt was a star newspaper reporter for the Trenton Times. Does anybody know that?
No.
Okay, we won't go there because you got a couple secrets I don't want to explore.
That's all right. But we did get together for top secret lunches.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Yeah, we had a good time.
By the time we're doing that's 1975.
Yeah.
And to your immense credit, one of the things that you got into was setting up the your vet center.
Vet work.
Vet work, thank you. And when did all this begin? Because in the meantime, you did get married. Yeah. And congratulations, you just celebrated your 50th anniversary with your sweetheart, Fern. Mm-hmm. And so you're married, you're having kids along the way, you're doing this reserves, and then up pops this idea you had, which you...
Yeah.
And I want to talk a little bit more about that because we often hear about stories that aren't successful. This is an amazing story with VetWorks.
Yeah, well...
How'd that all begin?
I ran for political office, and I was elected to Board of Education. And
This is in Toms River?
Lacey Township.
Lacey Township.
Ocean County.
Right.
And the next year they asked me to run for the township committee, and I did, and ended up as mayor, and ran for re-election when I was mayor and was re-elected. And anyway, throughout this period of working with county government and local government, I had made veterans issues a priority. And I got to see how there was a lot of money out there for many different groups, and it wasn't any going to veterans. And I was active in the veterans community, and I saw a lot of our guys with big-time problems with PTSD and
Sure.
PTSD-related issues, and there was nothing there to help them. Nothing. Not like today, where there's a million foundations and nonprofits.
Right.
There was nothing back then.
So this is like the early 80s.
Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, in the mid-'80s, I'm on the Human Services Council with the county, and I asked the county freeholders to do me a favor and put aside some money for a grant for PTSD counseling in the county. I said, okay, that's a great idea, Tom. And they hired 2 psychologists to do this PTSD counseling. And I got a number of guys I know that are having difficulties that I send them to this thing, and I'm monitoring it for like 6 months. And it's obvious to me that it's not working. They're not being helped. And I'm watching it and studying it, and then it occurred to me that, these guys are going in there, and they've got serious PTSD,
And they're
anger.
combat vets talking to shrinks that have never smelled gunpowder, let alone heard a shot fired in anger.
And they were good clinicians, but it was just not working. They had anger issues and many different issues. And I started looking at it, and, a guy would come in, troubled veteran would come in, and he'd have PTSD, and he'd be drinking way too much to try and resolve those anger issues or whatever he had. And a drunken, angry guy was then having family issues because his wife doesn't want to put up with that, and his kids are being berated. And eventually he gets to the point where it affects his job, and he loses his job. And then he runs into problems with the police. And it dawned on me all of a sudden that you're not going to correct PTSD issues with just counseling. You got to correct all of those problems. You got to deal with all of those issues at the same time. So anyway, put in for a grant. I started a board of directors, all combat veterans from 4 different wars: Vietnam, Korea, World War II, and the Middle East. And figured 12 was a good number for a board of directors. Just kind of occurred to me. And I was the chairman of the board, and we were all non-paid. This is all volunteer work, and it was volunteer on my part. And we started this operation called Vet Work. And I hired a guy by the name of Paul Kozak to be our director. And he was a Marine in Vietnam who was in a deuce and a half. He was a Lance Corporal. Ran over a mine and got blown out of the truck, covered with diesel fuel and burning diesel fuel.
Whoa.
Spent, they gave him that burn pack. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
They made him drink that, and he was gagging and stuff. I sent him to Japan. He was in the hospital for a year. And when he got out, he was having his issues. Whenever he got nervous, he'd start choking like he did when they were making him drink the... Anyway, I hired him to be the director. And I figured, if this doesn't work and nothing else happens, at least I got a good job for one guy. So it's going to be a win no matter what. And anyway, I started putting this thing together.
This is all based in Lacey County, New Jersey.
Lacey Township, New Jersey.
Outside of Toms River.
Yeah, I had been mayor there, so I got them to give me a house that they weren't using.
And you used your networking a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. And I got a house, and they let me put my offices there. I got a grant for over $100,000 from the county where I worked to fund this thing. And started hiring different counselors. Had a PTSD counselor, a family counselor, an employment counselor, had a food bank, had a clothing bank, had a transportation. 2 cars were donated.
Let me know for a second. As you're putting this together, when did your breakfast start?
My who?
breakfast. You had
Oh,
breakfast.
yeah.
So you begin these breakfasts where VFW, DAV, American Legion, they all come together.
Yeah. I knew I had all these pieces I had to put together. I knew I needed transportation, so a local bank donated a car. I had the money for salaries. I had a need for a food bank. So initially, I went to all the veterans posts around Legion, DAV, VFW, Jewish War veterans, all of them. And I think we had like 13 of them in our county. And they were never really too active in helping people,
Right.
So anyway, I put out the word that I needed some food for this food bank, and somebody stopped by and dropped off a couple cans. So anyway, I decided I'd have an award breakfast, and I paid for this breakfast and invited all these posts. And I called Commander Jones. You helped our food pantry tremendously. I didn't mention it was only 3 cans. Here's your certificate. Wow, I got a certificate to take pictures. Anyway, I ended up with so much food for that food pantry, more than we would ever need or ever use. And I got seriously handed to these guys. Once they knew what we were doing and how it was helping, they just tripped over themselves.
But again, you use those highly honed leadership skills
hey,
to put this all together.
When you're 18 years old and very impressionable, and they send you to infantry OCS to be a leader, it's got to rub off, right?
Yeah.
So... Anyway, a trouble guy walks in the door, and his family's in trouble. He's not working. Got food we can give him.
Sure.
Sign him up immediately. The very first thing is to get rid of the alcohol or drug issues. And we had a very good VA clinic, I think in Dover, Delaware, someplace. I can't remember exactly where. That was the first thing we do was send them there and get them clean. And when a guy came in the door, the very first thing we said is, you got to want to be helped. You're doing this. You screwed up this. You screwed up that. You screwed up that. You're a fucking screw up.
Yeah.
Do you want to get back to normal? And we'd have an in-depth discussion with him. And he'd say, yeah, I want to. And when we got that commitment, then we'd go all out. And once we got the alcohol, drug abuse squared away, then he'd come back and immediately start with PTSD counseling and family counseling, and if the job, it was employment counseling, and hitting all these different issues. If his family needed food, we
sure.
He got the food bank. We also had another guy who was our veterans service officer from the DAV who came in and worked there 3 hours a day. So when a guy came in with all these issues, the very first thing we did was have him sign up for VA benefits for PTSD or whatever the hell it was, so we get some money coming in. And if he had to go to the VA in Newark, then we had transportation. We were able to do that.
That's pulling all this together out of thin air.
Yeah, well, I said, I'm stupid. I saw what was going on. I saw the problem, and I saw the way you fix it. And it was just a case of getting everybody else to buy into it and to be helping with it. And that's exactly, what happened. And I'm sure there's parts I'm forgetting, too, that had an impact. But
you also, in your extreme modesty here, you were mayor for how many terms?
Just 2 years.
Just 2.
Yeah.
Just 2 terms. But then you're mayor while raising a family of 5 yourself.
4.
4? Oh, okay.
Well,
I thought
my father-in-law was there too, so it's
okay.
5.
But you're raising this family and doing all this with VetWorks.
Well, some people have golf for a hobby.
Yeah.
This was my hobby, and I was doing something good with it.
And you kept records for how many vets you worked along the way?
Yeah, I stayed there as the chairman of the board of directors for 20 years. After 20 years, I figured that was enough. Let somebody else take over and help 10,000 veterans over that period of time. We actually went
10,000.
10,000. And many of those, I can tell you, would not be alive if we didn't intervene. Many families would have been gone if it was not for our intervention there. And we were just very, very lucky to have everything working with us at that time to help solve these issues. The only one problem I had, the one piece I couldn't get together, was we had homeless guys, a number of homeless guys, and didn't really have the money to put them in a hotel. Even the cheap hotels, $25, $30 a night, there was nothing budgeted for that. And I had one guy living out in the woods who the cops picked up. I think I told you we had Vietnam cops.
Yeah.
He's wandering around out in the woods out by 537. Do you remember where that is?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, the cops pick him up, and he doesn't remember anything, doesn't want to talk about anything, just says he's a veteran, and that communists are trying to kill him, that they're dropping bombs on him, and they're jumping out and trying to shoot him with shotguns and so they drop him off at vet work, and he's incommunicative. It seems like he's out of it, and he's talking to my director there, Paul, and he sees a Special Forces plaque on the wall, which was mine that I had there.
Yeah.
He said, I was in Special Forces. And he won't say more. So Paul calls me. I come over and I walk in and say, I heard you understand your special. And he just opens up like I'm a Special Forces officer, and I got to answer all my questions. And anyway, he doesn't have any records, no documents. And I said, well, where'd you serve? He said, I served with a Mike Force, blah, blah, blah. Who's some of the guys you served with? He mentions a couple names, and he mentions Ben Lyons.
No.
Oh, so Ben Lyons. Yeah, I know him. So I give him a call, and I said, I got this guy. I won't give you his name. But he said, oh, yeah, I know him. He was there like 3 tours. He was in so much shit. He like 6 Bronze Stars for Valor. And
No kidding.
Yeah. And he said, oh, yeah, I know him very well. And they made him finally get out. Well, I explained to him, I got him in my office. He doesn't have any paperwork, doesn't have any shit. He sent him to the VA. They sent him back because he doesn't have any proof. So Lyons gets on a phone with all the other teammates who were involved with this guy, and within days, I have copies of orders with this guy's name on it,
Really?
with all the other names.
Yeah.
So enough to put a package together and call my local congressman, and he runs it through. Anyway, long story short, he ends up with 100% disability and squared away. As it turns out, where he was living out in the woods was the Air National Guard bombing range.
Oh, my God.
And that's who was trying to
Kill him.
And a few miles down from there was a shotgun range.
Right.
So he was telling the truth. He wasn't nuts that, he thought people were trying to kill him. Anyway, that was one story where...
That's a hell of a story.
And there are many, many, many like it.
And just for the background, Ben Lyons ran recon out of CCS.
Yeah.
And he was in our fraternal organization, the Special Operations Association. I don't know if you met him through that or the SFA, but anyway, you knew him, connected with him, and that's just an incredible one story of all. And he wasn't 5150; he was indeed being bombed.
Oh, absolutely. But anyway,
in New Jersey,
getting back to the homeless issue. As it turns out, and you remember where Barnegat Light was?
Of course.
Real fancy schmancy tip of the island. Well, they had a Coast Guard station there.
They did.
Yeah, and the Coast Guard decided they weren't going to use it anymore, and they were putting up for the public's use. And the priority was veterans organizations. I put in for it, as did the municipality of Barnegat Light, who wanted to use it for a municipal building.
Ooh.
Long story short, they awarded it to me, to vet work. They went bullshit. They were very unhappy. So they call me to a township meeting there, and they find out I'm going to use it for homeless veterans.
Oh.
And they go bullshit. Every person in the town was at that meeting. Hundreds of them. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And they started
We
cranking.
spent many summers down there at Barnegat.
Oh,
Light.
did you? Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
yeah,
you
so
know
we-
I'm talking about
Oh,
that.
yeah.
I was Bon Jovi has a house there, and I don't know who else. Anyway, they're really they want to take me out and tar and feather me,
Indeed.
And they say, well, how are you gonna? It needs all kinds of renovations. How are you gonna pay for this? I said, well, there are a couple different veteran motorcycle groups. We're gonna have a rally down here.
We're calling the Hells Angels.
I said, we got all kinds of stuff we can do to have rallies now. And they went berserk.
Extra ballistic.
They tried to get me fired in my job. And anyway, as it turns out, they're telling me, it's going to take a year and $1 million to renovate it, and you're not going to be able to get that done for years. And I said, well, we'll hold fundraisers down here. We'll be here all the time. We got to get these homeless veterans. Anyway, a few days later, township attorney calls me. Said, hey, Tom, yeah, it's going to take you years to get this done. You got to raise millions of dollars to get it done. How many homeless veterans can you house for $25,000 at $25 a night? I said, geez, quite a bit. He said, well, how about we cut you a check and you sign off and the municipality take it over? I said, I can house a lot for $25,000, but I could house a lot more for $50,000. He said, done. Send me a check for vet work. They have one posters for me out for me on that island.
Light, yeah.
Anyway, long story. We got $50,000 that we use specifically for
housing
homeless veterans. We I can't remember the name of the motels there in Lacey, but $25 a night. And put a guy in a motel for 2 weeks until he gets squared away, and that was enough money, and then some additional money from that to last for years. So that was the one thing we couldn't get done that we finally did get done. So
25,000. Let's make it 50, and sure enough, all of a sudden,
yeah, they went for it. And there was news.
I've heard about rolling the dice, but this is
and there was articles in the newspapers down there along Beach Island.
Oh, sure.
That Waskovich is extorting the town. Yeah, I was, but I wasn't gonna admit that.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
One man's extortion is another veteran's help.
That's exactly right.
We're not talking Al Capone here.
So anyway, after 20 years, like I said, we had over 10,000 veteran clients during that time.
Wow.
And a lot of them were, just I need a ride to the VA or
and again, to put that in context, I remember being there when this all started, and then after I left for another state that I don't even want to mention that I ever visited, that you really brought that around. And at a time when true down-to-earth veteran services, that like your approach at VetWorks was all the different issues.
Right.
PTSD and family and other counseling, as well as you had a clothing bank there.
Right. Food bank.
So food bank, clothing, and things like that.
Transportation. And very importantly, put them in for VA benefits when they walked in the door. So we hit all those things. And I think we were probably 80% successful in treating, these trouble guys.
Just being able to find a good VSO
right,
who knows the VA and, more importantly, can work with the VA and get the paperwork in for the vet.
Yeah, and this
in an expedited fashion.
And that was one of the most important things, hiring this guy, Paul Kozak, I told you about.
Oh, sure.
He knew firsthand, and he had a big heart, and he would talk to these guys anytime, any day or night. And they could tell, dealing with him, that he was sincere. He was on their side, and he'd do whatever he had to do to get things done to help them. And that's another thing that we did, too, and made it a point of, is once we got all the stuff done, all the stuff in place, we didn't forget about him. We'd follow up in 6 months. Hey.
Commo check.
Yeah, you still doing all
right?
You're still doing this? You're still doing that? And there were backsliders. So by doing that, we picked them up and kept them going. Now the VA, you go in there with PTSD, they put you in some counseling, and give you half a dozen pills to take, and that's it. Ooh. And that's why you're seeing so many suicides, I think, and so many bad responses. With us, we cared.
Yeah.
We'd get involved, and you'd hear from us. And that made all the difference.
It wasn't a 9-to-5 job.
No, it made all the difference.
And also, the other context here is, at that time, particularly in 1970 and the early 80s, the VA care was not what it is today.
Right.
There's some cities, like in San Diego, where I worked before on veterans committees, there was some improvements. But in 1971, I went to the VA in Newark, and they were insulted that I was there asking them for services.
Unbelievable. That's why it was so bad. Newark was the main VA place.
Sure, horrible.
And it was just absolutely horrible.
And then, at the time, the GI Bill, you had $200 a month. Whether you went to Harvard University or Mercer County Community College, you got $200 a month.
That's why I went to Mercer County Community College.
That's why I went to Translate. You and I, man, we're on tight budgets.
Hey, you got that straight, buddy.
And so also, in fairness, as you come to the end of that 20-year tour of duty, you transitioned out, and you also got elected to the board of directors for the Special Operations Association.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot
You
about
came
that.
in there. We were on there together.
That's right.
And and when you came on the board, you got elected quickly because of your leadership. Guys knew who you were, but also you were still working with the vet works.
Right.
And then after a year and a half or so, you said, "Hey, I've got to go back because the transition's not done yet."
Right.
And so here you are on the board of directors, and you still went back and got it to the point where then that vet works went on for another 20 plus years and still operating today.
Absolutely. And the point you mentioned, our guys are so friggin' hard-headed. If anybody ever deserved PTSD benefits and the things that went with it, it's our guys. And some of our guys are such shit for brains that just refuse to do it. I'm too tough. I don't need that. I don't need that. Well, you're a dumbass because there are guys who fell off the back of a truck that are getting $600 a month that you're not.
Yeah.
And I go through a whole long story about how I ended up, but I don't want to bore you. But
About what?
about how I ended up with PTSD, but I don't want to bore you.
That's not boring, Tom.
Well, I just threatened to throw a guy out the window, but that's another story. Anyway, the point is I got at least a half a dozen of our guys to put in for shit, and now they're benefiting from that. So
Indeed. So as you head down the trail here now, you do the time of special ops, vet works, you transition out, and then you went into like working with being a granddad.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, jeez. My oldest grandson joined the Marines. He's in the Marine Corps at 29 Palms. And my second oldest grandson is in basic training right now. Next week I go to graduation at Fort Jackson.
Wow.
He's going to combat medic school and then airborne and then special forces. So good troop. And Will, who you know, he's in Navy ROTC. He wants to be a naval officer. And
He lives up there in Dutch Neck, New Jersey.
Yeah. And a couple other grandsons. One wants to go to the Air Force Academy. Another one wants to go to Special Forces. So they're all lined up, ready to...
So from your 4 children, you now have 15 grandchildren.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, they're great, though. You know?
Oh, yeah, indeed. And you still keep your fingers in the political pies a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Keep an eye on things and
address
issues.
Mike Waltz is a pretty good guy, as you know.
District 6 in Florida.
Yeah, that's my district.
The first Green Beret elected to Congress.
Yeah. And,
he's done a hell of a job.
Yeah, I'm one of the first people he met with down there.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, tell me more.
Yeah, well, originally, I guess the year before, I was thinking of running for that seat. And,
no kidding.
Yeah. And when DeSantis pulled out, Rubio was going to run for president. But anyway, Rubio went back, so DeSantis went back. And anyway, I decided not to do it, so I had my head examined. But Waltz, I guess, did have his head examined and decided he was going to do it. So he called me, and we met at a local restaurant there.
No kidding.
Yeah, and had lunch, and he gave me a copy of one of his books and told me what it was
Soldier
doing.
Diplomat.
Yeah.
Great book.
Yeah, and I said, well, geez, anything I can do to help, I'd be more than glad to do it. And was active in his first campaign, was on his campaign committee. And, he had a tough primary that year and a tough election, but he won both. Now he's running unopposed.
Is that right?
Yeah, just a libertarian, no Democratic candidate.
Wow.
So he's doing well, and you see him all the time on the news and speaking on major issues, Afghanistan, and
we'll get some clear thinking out of Congress for a change, as opposed to a lot of the other things that we're seeing that we. Lord help us.
So anyway, just keep him busy with that. If I run into a veteran who needs any assistance or whatever, I'll get involved that way. But no more organizations. I'm retired.
Yeah. Well, you're a little over 70 now.
Yeah, that's right. A young 70.
Yeah. And we buried a lot of our friends that didn't get to the 70s.
Geez, ain't that the truth?
Yeah, it's kind of like you and I were talking this morning coming back from the airport. It's kind of like we never thought we'd be seeing our 22nd or our 23rd birthday.
Oh, absolutely. Jeez.
So anything that we have today, it's gravy. It's extra.
Absolutely. Never expected to go past 21. You know, here we are, 73, and geez, going strong, huh?
Indeed. Yeah, we can't complain. Not from this side. So it looks like we're getting to that point in the interview where if there's something else you want to go back to, or maybe something we may have skipped over, or in the life of Thomas R. Waskovich, the first, the one and the only, there might be anything else we want to go back on. We're here now at that point, sir.
Okay, I think that, I told you about all the good stuff and everything.
Yeah.
I should probably mention my one dumbass moment, and I think it happens to everybody. They just don't talk about it.
Some of us, most of us don't.
Yeah,
But you did. Your
Yeah.
dumbass moment was. And Fern turned the machine off.
No, that's other dumbass moment. Anyway, we got this mission to try and find a NVA bivouac area, and anyway, we were moving towards it. We had a civilian following us, and we grabbed
Civilian?
him. Yeah, well, suppose it's civilian.
Yeah, right. In Laos.
No, this was a local mission for Play Coup.
Oh.
For the 4th Infantry Division. We did run a couple of locals. And anyway, my yards want to kill him, want to torture him, kill him.
Of course. The yards hate Vietnamese.
Yeah, and my American squad leaders didn't seem to object too much to that. Anyway, I decided, no, that's not a good thing to do. If somebody had to cut his throat, it'd have to be me, and I don't want to have that for the rest of my life. And that's another unspoken thing for SOG. I think there were a lot of teams who ran into civilians and who had the choice of offing them, cutting their throat, or letting them go. And as we just saw with the Navy SEAL in Afghanistan, they let him go, and they came back with all his friends and killed him. So anyway, that's an unspoken situation where many of our guys had to deal with. When I encountered it, I decided that I would bound and gag him and take him along till my mission was completed, and then let him go. That's what I did.
That's the smart thing.
Absolutely. And I think that's something maybe our current guys should be aware of if they're ever in that situation.
Well, it's another example of lessons learned, not
exactly.
being passed along
That's
for next generation.
That's why I'm mentioning it. You don't have two choices to cut his throat or let him go. There's a third choice.
Yeah.
Blindfold him, gag him, take him along. Complete your mission, then let him go. Anyway, that's not the point I was getting to.
Yeah, but the dumbass point was.
So anyway, we get all this intelligence from him, and we know the location of the bad guys, so they call an arc light.
Arc light, yeah. Which is a B-52 strike.
Yeah. And then they send me in for a BDA.
BDA?
Yeah.
Okay, so a BDA for our viewers is a bomb damage assessment after a B-52 strike.
Right.
Okay, then take it fair.
Right.
And of course, and our brass in the Air Force always told us a BDA is a good mission. Because after we bomb, they're going to be all dead or knocked out, and they're just, you just walk in, take some pictures, and come back.
Well, there's a certain amount.
And the truth of the matter is,
there's a certain amount of logic to that, because you go in and everything is just splinters everywhere and dead meat hanging off trees. And anyway, we're going through, and I see this hole like this. Holy shit, it's a tunnel entrance. These bastards went in a tunnel. So I go up there. I got a grenade. I'm going to pull a pin, throw it down the tunnel. I'm just ready to do it. And one of the Vietnamese comes on. Trong, wait. No do. So what do you mean no do? He said, plane fly sky? Yeah. Drop bomb? Yeah. Bomb hits ground, no go off. I'm about ready to throw a grenade on a 500-pound bomb. I wouldn't be here doing this interview, but that wasn't the case. So anyway, that was my dumbass movement.
And again, but the good news is it's a classic example of you working with your indigenous troops.
Oh, absolutely.
Who with the special forces in general, today, yesterday, our day, that's the difference with SF, but we work with local folks.
Oh, yeah.
And there's that reciprocity of respect, and not to mention the fact that they were willing to put their lives on the line for us.
Oh, absolutely. And they one mission, again, a local.
Yeah.
And I see my yards, they're picking these little green berries off the tree and putting it in their hat. And I said, hey, Crook, what are you doing? He's, very number one, chop. So I try, yeah. And he gives them to me, put a handful on it. They're wild hot peppers. I just about choked and gagged. I'm rolling around the ground. they're rolling around laughing, just about pissing themselves. They thought it was so funny. So the point is, you can't trust the little devils sometimes, too, you know?
Oh, yeah. But, before we get out of here, I want to return because, again, you epitomize the SF modesty problem, which is in conducting these interviews. I've run into this all the time. So your first mission with the Operation Nightcap, where you've been on the ground for those days, and you said that when you left, there was some enemy fire. And you were under fire. But I want to put this into a little bit more broader context with the John Plaster's Secret Commandos book.
Yeah.
Because he talked about this after you were taken out. And for 3 days, not one truck got past him, meaning you. Then for 3 weeks, the Hatchet Force held the hilltop, rotating companies twice until holding it became untenable. At one point, so many NVA were in the open that Cubby Rider Luke Dove was shooting at them from the open window of an O-2 forward air control plane flown by Captain Al Rose. That indicates how hot that was. And by the time 3 weeks later, they had so many people. And that just... I'm sorry, I just like to have the modesty thing here is just how severe that contact was.
It was the intersection of Route 96 and 110, which were high-speed areas for the bad guys, And,
absolutely.
Anyway, it was pretty neat to be on the very first mission to block the Ho Chi Minh Trail. That's pretty historic.
It is. And the Ho Chi Minh Trail was the main supply route for supplies coming from North Vietnam down south, and they would go to those... Bin Trams or Bin Lams?
Bin Trams, I think.
Bin Trams. Yeah. So every 20 miles, by 69, these things were getting developed.
Yes.
And they knew that the Air Force or we would have airstrikes on them.
Yeah.
And so they minimized.
Right.
And they had those parks.
How come none of our guys knew about this Bin Tram business back in the day? I guess they were just trying to figure it out back then, maybe.
They may have. That's like, I know we knew that they had truck supplies, but we never told like every 20 miles.
Right.
These are things we all read many years later, or in your case, you're the first guy to document, hey, we've got one with pictures.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And anyway, you learn a lot afterwards.
Yes, that's for sure. So any last thoughts before we officially close out, Tom?
No, other than it's really terrific to see you, buddy.
Likewise, it's been a couple of days.
9 years old, spent a lot of time together in high school, and lost track.
Yes.
And then doing the same deal.
And staying in contact over time, because there'd be times you need some help, or I could call you, say, hey, I got a friend of mine down in South Jersey.
Absolutely.
I know we did that a few times before I moved to California.
Absolutely. Had some terrific lunches downtown.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that too. Yeah. And then we helped to lower the amount of beer in a couple of bars in Trenton too along the way in the early
Chit-chat
days.
lounge, that's right. We won't go into that.
No.
Like we
Yes, we're staying out of jail on this one. All right, well, we're at that point in time. So we want to thank all the men and women in our armed services who have fought and bled for the country. We also want to thank Border Patrol, law enforcement, first responders, EMT, corrections officers, and yes, the people on the front lines at the hospitals over these last 2 years with the China virus. Again, we want to thank Jocko Willink for sponsoring the SOGCast interviews, productions, and flight costs. And we also want to mention that we have, for my personal website, is www.SOG Chronicles. You can go to them for all of our other previous SOGcasts, both the audio versions, and Jocko's staff is putting up the YouTube versions. And we wanted to also say that we take the men and women who have served in the years past, heroes like Tom Waskovich, and we also remember and salute the men and women who didn't come back. On that note, God bless America. Thank you, Tom.
Amen. Thank you.
So thank you. I'm joined now by Tom, my top secret agent. We can't reveal his true identity at this time, but he's been our technician through many of our SOGcast interviews ever since SOGcast number 1, which is so long ago. But
It's forever.
Indeed. And they are available. If you go to our website or just go to Spotify or Apple Podcast, they're all there. And of course, with YouTube, we've posted the first 7. But today, Thomas R. Waskovich the first, the one and the only.
Another great Tom. It's a good name.
I never thought about it. You guys could be the Tom.
Exactly.
Every guy's story that comes in from SOG, they have these stories. They're different.
Yeah.
They're unique. And yet the sheer odds and the whole thing with malaria. I got a headache. I'll go into mission here and
just
fall
go
in
anyway.
the face. Going up a hill to attack a 12.7.
Right.
Yeah. Just another day in SOG.
Just another day in SOG. I mean, it's funny. So first I got to ask. So in high school, y'all were in high school together, right?
Different. He went to St. Anthony's High. I went to Trenton High.
But who got the girl?
He always did. He was handsome.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I had to find out. I knew that was a part of it.
He was suave and debonair. Whereas me, I'm just the milkman's son, stumbling along.
But, the stories they're always, every time I come here, it's amazing just to sit and listen to all the stories. And every one of the SOGcasts, even if I'm not here, I definitely listen to them anyway because I love the history of it and where you guys took something so new at the time and made it something completely insane, but at the same time perfect. Like it was the right blend. You guys were the right personalities, the right generation. I'll say that, the right generation to fill the billet of what was to be and what was SOG. I mean, they couldn't have asked for a better group of guys because you can't get people to do the craziness of what that was.
Now it was a different era too. We still grew up under the influence of World War II history.
Yeah, but even then you look at it and you're like, okay, so they rode around with tanks, and they jumped in and they, obviously I'm not putting it down by any means, but it's like you went the whole other realm. You went from, okay, we're going to do this as a massive, huge front to, all right, there's 2 of you and here's some local guys.
Yeah.
You guys go do things.
Yeah.
So it's always amazing. Yeah, it's what leads people to doing and making decisions. It definitely was an influence on my life and growing up reading and listening to stories and now being still part of it and being able to capture this history because it's the most important thing are these stories, these one-offs. I mean, sitting up on a hill firing a 90 millimeter recoilless rifle at trucks at night with no night optics and trying
standing
to
on top of a bunker.
Yeah.
Why don't you shoot at me while I'm standing up here knocking out your trucks?
All I know is, was that a lieutenant or a captain that was in the bunker behind you? What's that? Lieutenant. A lieutenant. Oh, well, that makes sense. All right. But first off, whose idea was it for him to put his bunker behind the recoilless rifle and not realize that that's a bad idea?
Yeah, you would think you would know, huh?
Well, he's a lieutenant. We give them some exceptions. I mean, there are some, and you bring up like Dick Meadows with what was it, 13, and we could compare that. I think Dick Thompson's was 15 non-captured.
Yeah, right.
That he talks about on his.
Close. We came really close to getting some. Of course, the troll with SOGcast 001.
Yeah, with the female.
They had a female POW, and when they realized she was a female. At 5,000 feet in a king bee, she turned around and ran out the door.
Yeah.
And just jumped without a parachute.
But, I mean, all you guys are brave. All you guys are heroes, no matter what anybody wants to say. And, I appreciate what you've done for Vietnam vets. My dad was a Vietnam vet, or is a Vietnam vet, who suffered from PTSD as well. Didn't get treatment until he actually got diagnosed in 2010.
Really?
2010. So that many years have gone by, and it just shows, that war specifically really changed the way people saw, because after the war, everybody just forgot about those guys. And then all of a sudden when the new war started, all those problems started coming up with the new soldiers. And then they realized, that's what, so now we need to bring it back. So, it's sad to say that we lose a lot of veterans to suicide. We lose a lot of veterans to homelessness and obviously drugs, alcohol, and all that. But they're all trying to drown it. They're trying to hide it, and they're trying to bury those feelings and do what you do in the military, which is, hey, drive on. Oh, you got hurt? You got malaria? Get out there. Yeah. Dick Thompson, you burned your hands? Hey, you got to go get that helicopter.
Tomorrow.
You know?
Yeah, go get
tomorrow. Like, okay. You know, so it shows you that that's the mentality is you don't give up. Yeah. You just keep pushing through and you don't ask for help. So the military does a great job of instilling that in people, that kind of work ethic. But at the same point, it's to a detriment. And a lot of guys, when they get out, can't get past that I can ask for help.
Well, yeah, and I think that today that's one of the efforts, if nothing else, to really better address it, not only at the VA level, but with some of the nonprofits that are around, like the Green Beret Foundation, are leading people to help. If they can't get it within the VA, there's other non-government groups or organizations that, like Tom said earlier, today there's a lot more than what was around when he put together VetWorks in the early 1980s. Yeah. There was just nothing there.
Right.
And particularly in New Jersey. And that's true, I think, probably in most states in the country at the time.
Yeah.
And I worked at a nonprofit in San Diego County that was started in 1979. And then by the early 80s, they began to weave in some veteran services. But it was never the complete level that Tom was able to work up to with VetWorks.
Right.
But we had liaisons and stuff. But, one thing at a time.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
It's always good. I love your stories.
Well, and then the other thing, too, is that in talking about through the different missions and coming back, it's we, the old gray heads, talk to today's guys and guys from the last generation. And we always tell them, hey, you stepped on our shoulders and you take it to the next level.
Right.
And we never feel as though we appreciate what people say and like your gratitude. But on the other hand, the guys that served these last 20 years, there's been some great service there, and there's been a price paid for it.
Definitely, and that's the thing. And if you're out there, people say it to veterans all the time, thank you for your service. And I'll say this, if you see a wife or a family who has someone who served and may have given the ultimate sacrifice or given partial that, if you go up to them, you thank them, because the families are the ones that suffer.
Oh, yeah.
The families are the ones who didn't come back. The families are the ones who came back with, some disabilities or stuff like that. You need to thank the family as well, not just the guy who served, because his wife or her husband and their children sacrificed right along with him or her. They sacrificed right there with him. So if they were married when they went overseas, that wife put everything on her shoulders.
Well, even today, we've had group functions with 3rd, 5th, and one other 10th Special Forces group where I've been involved with the vets over the last couple Special Forces. Mm-hmm. And each and every time today, we thank you guys, but family, wives, and the whole family side of it is much better.
Yep.
And working to improve that forever. So
definitely
another benefit from all that.
Yeah.
And I guess one other benefit was from our era, Vietnam vets came home, they weren't welcome due to all the political nonsense that were from the left at the time. And from that, today's soldiers or sailor, any veteran that comes home, it's separated.
Yep.
We don't have that hostility toward the vets. So that's another benefit.
It's always a good thing.
Indeed. Anything else, sir? Because I know you got to get back to work.
Yeah. I just know that if I
have your top secret hat.
If I have a bivouac site, I'm just hoping Tom's not coming after me, because it seemed like the most you did there was go after bivouac sites.
He did a whole lot of bivouac.
It was a lot of bivouac site looking. Every one of those started off with, we sent out a mission to find a bivouac site.
Or a truck park.
These people have bivouac sites everywhere.
And they have 150. We have at least 150 people assigned there. Yeah.
And you tried to play Rambo by blowing up a bomb. So good job. No. You didn't have a claymore. You had a hand grenade, but it was still going to end in the same way. But I do like the only thing I'll say is the claymore mine, the ingenuity you had to place something else in front of that claymore mine.
And
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sure. Yeah,
we did it once.
I'm pretty sure somebody else in this room got yelled at for something with a white phosphorus grenade. We won't bring up names.
We won't talk about that right now.
We won't talk about that person.
So at this point in time, you got to get back to work. And we want to, again, thank all the men and women in our armed services who have fought and bled for the country. As always, we thank Border Patrol, law enforcement, first responders, EMT, even our corrections officers, and the hospital people that have been dealing with this virus for the last 2 years. As always, we thank Jocko Willing for sponsoring the SOGCast interviews, our production, the flights, and cost. And we have different websites that we can go to back this up. Please go to, you can just Google Jocko Willing for his products. You can Google SOGCast. They'll pop up now. And we're grateful for getting our stories out, and we've had a great response. Even the SOGCast #1 has had over 155,000 views. And so please share our stories. And then last but not least, we thank the men and women who have served our countries in past years. Men like Tom Waskovich. We thank Tom. We thank him for coming here today. And as always, we close out. We remember and salute the men and women who did not make it back. And as of today, there were 1,584 Americans still listed as missing in action in Southeast Asia from the Vietnam War, which includes 50 Green Berets from the Secret War still listed as missing in action. One day we're going to bring in a family member to talk about what it was like to not know about their relative. And we also have at least 83 aviators who we documented who died supporting our SOG men on the ground. God bless America. Till next time.